The Declaration of Domination. The Zarnathi war cruiser hung in Earth's orbit like a blade waiting to fall. 2 kilometers of obsidian metal and firepower, bristling with plasma cannons, dread drones, and arrogance. It didn't speak so much as it declared, a proclamation of galactic superiority carved in steel. On Earth, humanity had gathered its brightest minds, most silver-tongued diplomats, and a handful of military brass for the historic moment. A meeting of species, a moment of first contact, while ultimatum. The Zarnathi message was simple. We are the Empire. Surrender your world. Pay tribute. Serve in our fleets. Resistance is death. You have 1 solar day to comply. The United Earth Coalition flinched, but did what humans always did when told to kneel. They stalled for time, sent a delegation, and hoped for the best. At the Coalition launch hangar in low orbit, Joan Walker, chief mechanic of Shuttle 7A, wiped sweat from her brow and slammed a wrench the size of a toddler into the open guts of the ship's plasma regulator. "Stupid overheating grid," she muttered, yanking a fuse cable free. "Piece of Martian-manufactured junk." She hadn't slept in 29 hours. The diplomatic envoy was set to launch in 15 minutes, and the shuttle's energy core had decided to start smoking like it was on break. Joan was underpaid, overworked, and out of patience. As far as she was concerned, alien invasions could wait. Her wrench, custom-forged, plasma-balanced, and heavier than regulation allowed, clanged into place as she patched the final coolant line. "Better not melt mid-flight," she grumbled. On the upper deck, officers in crisp suits argued about who would represent humanity. A renowned xenolinguist? A decorated general? An AI ethicist? No one noticed when a maintenance alert mislabeled Joan's presence on the shuttle as technical support, essential personnel. No one noticed when the shuttle doors sealed and launch clearance was granted. Joan barely noticed herself until the shuttle detached. Inertia pressed her into a bulkhead, and the stars stretched outside the portholes. "What the hell?" she barked, wrench raised like a club. "Who launched my damn workspace?" The diplomat nearest her, Ambassador Kell, blinked at her in confusion. "You're not on the manifest." "No kidding," she snapped. "I'm here fixing the drive coil, not to shake hands with lizard overlords." "Well, you're coming now. We can't turn back." Joan stared at the viewport. The Zarnathi ship loomed larger with each passing second. She exhaled slowly through her nose. "Great. Fine. I'm already here. If their fancy ship starts leaking hydrogen, don't come crying to me." Ambassador Kell, sweating nervously, cleared his throat. "The Empire has invited one representative aboard for negotiation." "Just one." Joan didn't answer. She was eyeing the shuttle's instrumentation panel, which was now flickering in protest. Figures. Shoddy interface protocols. Kell opened his mouth to protest, but paused as Joan lifted her wrench, inspected it like a surgeon checks a scalpel, and muttered, "If anything in there sparks, I swear to God I'll fix it," with blunt force. When the shuttle docked in the Zarnathi flagship's hangar bay, the boarding ramp descended with a hiss of pressure. Smoke poured in, tinted green from alien atmosphere filtering systems. Towering figures in silver-black armor stood in formation, 8 feet tall, with glowing spears and predatory eyes. "Send your champion," a voice boomed from a dozen speakers. Joan cracked her neck. The ambassador hesitated. "Surely we should send." "Send the human," the voice commanded again. Joan rolled her shoulders. "All right, I'll go. Maybe I'll find whoever designed their cooling systems and shove this wrench where the sun don't shine." Before anyone could argue, she stomped down the ramp. Grease on her overalls, boots stained with hydraulic fluid, wrench resting on her shoulder like a warhammer. The Zarnathi elite warriors stared. One tilted his head. Joan stared right back, narrowed her eyes, and muttered under her breath, "Let's get this over with. I've got 5 other ships on the repair docket, the greatest warriors." The corridor into the Zarnathi flagship felt more like a cathedral than a spaceship. Towering ceilings, carved bone pillars, dark metal etched with ancient war victories. Soft blue light pulsed beneath the floor panels with every step Joan took, casting her shadow long and strange. The Empire knew how to make an impression. At the far end, A dozen warriors stood at attention. Each one was at least a foot taller than Joan, armored in ornate, high-density plating that shimmered like obsidian. Their faces were hidden behind fong-shaped helmets, and their weapons, spears that crackled with plasma energy, hummed ominously. Joan stopped halfway through the corridor, sizing them up with a frown. "Well," she muttered, "somebody's compensating." The lead warrior stepped forward, armor hissing with pneumatic pressure. His voice came through a speaker grill embedded in his collar. "I am First Blade Korthax, champion of the Seventh Sun Arena, conqueror of the Quelner tribes. Who dares stand before the Empire?" Joan blinked slowly. "I'm Joan. I fix ships." Korthax paused. "You are the representative?" "I guess so," she said, shifting the wrench from her shoulder. "Wasn't planning to be, but here we are." Korthax straightened. "Then you face the ritual of strength. One test to prove your species worthy of negotiation. Choose your weapon." Joan raised an eyebrow. "I already did." She tapped the handle of her wrench against her palm. "Solid titanium. Plasma core booster for torque adjustment. Custom grip. Slightly scorched. You intend to fight with a tool?" Korthax asked, voice laced with disbelief. "No," Joan replied. "I intend to win with a tool." "Big difference." Snickers rippled through the gathered warriors. One stepped forward, taller than Korthax, clad in crimson trim, with dual energy axes on his back. "Let me face her," he said. "She is no warrior. I'll end this quickly." Korthax nodded. The challenger stalked forward, removing his helm. His face was angular, reptilian, eyes glowing orange. He raised his weapon. "Prepare yourself, human." Joan sighed. "I haven't even had my coffee." He charged. She didn't move. At the last second, the warrior brought his blade down, only to swing through air. Joan ducked low, spun on her heel, and smashed her wrench into the side of his knee joint. There was a crunch of composite armor cracking, followed by a surprise grunt. Joan stood up as he staggered back. "That's what you get for skipping structural support on your knee plates." He roared and lunged again, swinging high. She sidestepped, fluid and quick, and slammed the wrench into his ribs. Sparks flew. Armor buckled. "I told you your power distribution was garbage," she growled. Another blow to the shoulder, then one to the back of the helmet. The warrior collapsed, groaning. Joan exhaled. "Next." The chamber went silent. Korthax's eyes narrowed. "Your tactics are unorthodox." "I call it not dying," Joan replied, wrench still humming with residual heat. Korthax motioned, and another warrior stepped forward, then another. Two at once. Joan didn't flinch. They circled her, blades ready. She ducked, twisted, used one as a shield to block the other. She struck pressure points, targeting weak joints and exposed cabling. The floor became slick with hydraulic fluid. By the end of it, 4 elite warriors were on the ground. None dead, but all defeated. Joan stood, chest heaving, surrounded by groaning soldiers. "I didn't come here to fight," she said, glancing up at the security cameras. "But if you're going to test me, don't be surprised when I pass with flying colors and a few broken helmets." From somewhere unseen, a slow, deliberate clap echoed. Interesting came a new voice. Low, calm, commanding. A platform descended from the ceiling, revealing a throne-like seat with a tall, horned figure clad in ceremonial black. "The High Warlord," Korthax whispered. The warlord leaned forward. "You know, warrior," he said, "you fight without form, without elegance, without training." Joan wiped a smear of blood off her wrench with a grimy sleeve. "I fight to get the job done." The warlord studied her. "You are not what we expected from humanity." She grinned. "Good. Means you weren't ready." The mechanic method. Joan followed, the 2 trembling Zarnathi guards down a narrow corridor that pulsed with red light, still dragging her wrench along the floor with a sound like a grinding buzzsaw. Neither guard dared look at her. They'd watched her drop 4 elite warriors with nothing but brute force, sarcastic commentary, and what looked like an overgrown spanner. The hallway opened into the engineering bay, a vast cathedral of humming cores, energy conduits, and monitoring stations manned by hunched technicians with 6 arms and even more worried expressions. "This," one of the guards muttered, is the heart of the ship. Our pride, our power. Joan stopped just inside the threshold and squinted at the reactor. Her lips curled into a disgusted frown. Your coolant lines are touching your plasma feeds, she said flatly. And your overflow regulators are routed backward. Who designed this garbage? The guard stiffened. One technician gasped. Joan stepped forward and smacked the nearest wall panel with the base of a wrench. A faint hiss echoed through the room, followed by a flickering in the overhead lights. Just as I thought. You got an energy feedback loop waiting to cascade through your ventral relays. This whole place is one bad command away from turning into a fireworks show. This is state-of-the-art Zarnathi engineering. One of the techs snapped, indignant. Yeah, well, it's still hot garbage, Joan replied. And if you weren't too proud to run diagnostics that aren't written in ornamental glyphs, you'd know that. The guards looked at each other, uncertain. Then Joan did something no one expected. She dropped her wrench, popped open a side panel on the nearest power station, and started rerouting wires. Wait, what are you doing? One technician yelped, rushing forward. Fixing it before your ship goes nova, genius. Alarms chirped. Readouts started stabilizing. The reactor's hum dropped half a pitch. A silence fell over the bay. Joan stood up, wiping her hands on her stained overalls. There, now your core won't vaporize the moment someone flushes the waste tanks. You improved the system, a Zarnathi engineer whispered. I made it functional, Jones said. You ought to have been designing this thing like it's a religious relic instead of a power grid. The room remained still until, slowly, one of the Zarnathi engineers stepped forward. I've been saying for cycles that the redundancy relays were inefficient, he said quietly. Another nodded. She's right about the coolant lines. We've lost 3 engineers to steam bursts this cycle alone. Soon, a small crowd of alien engineers surrounded Joan, asking questions, handing her schematics, eagerly requesting input. She blinked, surprised. I'm not here for a workshop, she said, but she was already rolling up her sleeve again. 15 minutes later, she had them rerouting shield capacitors, optimizing their warp coil charge rate, and replacing the thermal fuses with off-the-books backups she pulled from her own toolkit. Then she made a mistake. She glanced at the main weapon conduit, a massive rail of chrome and humming plasma coils. That thing's aiming sequence is inefficient as hell, she muttered, stepping closer. You're wasting half your charge trying to cycle the barrel arrays. Joan adjusted a series of knobs and reconfigured the output limiters. The cannons suddenly powered down, and so did the shields. Lights across the ship dimmed. Sirens blared. Oops. The guards grabbed their weapons. You've sabotaged us. I improved your ship. Joan shouted back. Your weapons were interfering with your own internal defense grid. It's not my fault your systems are held together by duct tape and arrogance. An alert chimed across the intercom. Primary weapon offline. Defensive shields at 0%. Unknown interference in main reactor. Back on Earth, in the United Coalition command room, dozens of analysts stared at the live feed from Joan's helmet cam, broadcast in real time. The image flickered slightly as she tried to reset the power grid, swearing under her breath. Should we extract her? A general asked. No, said the lead diplomat. She's actually winning. Winning what? Engineering, diplomacy, combat, everything. On the Zarnathi flagship, Joan held her wrench high, surrounded by flickering sparks, terrified guards, and amazed engineers. She grinned. You wanted humanity's best? Sorry, you got me instead. Submission or service request. The massive war chamber of the Zarnathi flagship was deathly silent as the High Warlord stared at the central view screen. It showed a grainy feed from the engineering bay, his elite warriors groaning on the floor, reactor panels pried open, and a single furious human standing amid it all like a grease-streaked goddess of war and maintenance. She disabled our weapons, murmured one of the generals. She disabled our shields. She rewired the reactor, another added. Correctly, I might add. The High Warlord's claws tapped against his throne's armrest. Why haven't we killed her? The room hesitated. No one answered. Then the doors slammed open. Smoke curled in. Sparks drifted from exposed conduits. And there she was, Joan Walker, in oil-stained overalls, dragging her wrench behind her like a battle flag. The guards raised their weapons. She didn't flinch. "I'm not here to fight," she said, stepping into the war chamber. "Well, not unless one of you tries something stupid again." The warlord stood slowly, towering above her. "You defile our ship. You humiliate our champions. You disgrace our engineers." "I fix your ship," Joan snapped. "You're welcome. You are no ambassador." "Nope," she agreed. "I'm a mechanic. I wasn't supposed to be here. But thanks to a scheduling error, here I am." She pointed her wrench toward the throne. "And now I've spent 6 hours correcting everything your so-called greatest mind screwed up. You've got a flagship built like a death trap, warriors too arrogant to adapt, and a command structure that thinks surrender is just a formal word for obedience." The warlord's jaw tightened. "You mock us in our own sanctum." "No," Jones said. "I educate you." She pulled a data chip from her pocket and tossed it at his feet. "Blueprints, modifications, full system readouts. Everything I changed, so your shiny murder boat doesn't blow itself up the next time you fire a cannon." The warlord didn't move. "I didn't come here to destroy you," she continued. "I came here by mistake. But you gave me access to your ship, your systems, your warriors. And all I saw was waste, arrogance, inefficiency." She stepped forward. "You call yourselves an empire, but I've seen junkyards run better than this." Gasps echoed around the chamber. "You want to dominate the galaxy? Start by fixing your damn fuse boxes." For a long, heavy moment, no one moved. Then the warlord laughed. It was low, bitter, surprised. "You stand alone," he said. "No army, no weapons, no fleet, and you humiliated us with a wrench." Joan shrugged. "Good design and good swing mechanics go a long way." The warlord stepped down from his throne. "We have crushed worlds, reduced fleets to ash, forced species into servitude. Then maybe it's time someone held you accountable," Jones said. "You think humans are weak? Bureaucratic? Soft? Maybe most of us are, but some of us get things done." She let the words hang there like a hammer about to drop. The warlord glanced at the data chip, then back to her. "And what do you want in return?" She snorted. "What I want is a nap, a week off, and a raise. What you're going to do is leave Earth alone." He raised an eyebrow. "And if we don't?" She lifted her wrench. "I'll come back," she said. The chamber froze. One of the generals coughed. We moved to offer peace and trade and a permanent truce." The warlord exhaled. "Fine. Earth is free. You have our respect, Mechanic Joan of Earth. And our fear." Joan smiled. "You should fear bad design more." Later, the shuttle touched down on the launch pad in Earth orbit. Joan stepped out, still covered in soot, blinking at the sun. Ambassadors and officers rushed forward. "What happened up there?" one asked. "You didn't just negotiate peace. You crippled their command structure." Another shouted. "You're a hero." Joan rubbed her eyes. "I didn't negotiate anything. I just yelled at some over-engineered junk and beat up a few oversized lizards." The camera zoomed in. "What do we call this victory?" She raised her wrench, cracked her neck, and muttered. "They sent warriors. We sent a mechanic. Guess who's in charge now?"